Good afternoon. My name is Brett Bozeman. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations here at BCSC, and it is probably my highest professional honor to be here in front of you this evening to share this exciting opportunity we have with Eric Haller from Haller & Yoon regarding our new elementary school. A few notes of thanks from me to our school board for their support, the community for their support, the City of Columbus, the Cummins Foundation, of course, our BCSC Districting and Facilities Committee, Haller & Yoon Architecture, CSO Architecture, the Westside Community Church, Dr. Vester and his team here at Westside have been tremendously gracious to host us for many meetings here and have offered to do so as we continue the build here soon. R.E. Diamond, Design 27, LHP Structural, Taylor Brothers and Pepper Construction, Context Landscape Design, CEC Civil, and our teacher design team that we'll speak more about here in just a moment. A few logistics on the slide here behind me that you can see. Tonight we have the public reveal that we're excited about to share with you. Obviously, we will put this project out to bid at the end of June and early July. So far that we, from our budget estimates, we're in scope and on scale for our budget estimates. So we'll issue those bids here at the end of June, early July. Construction begins in August of 2025. Redistricting will happen late 26, early 27. That's a common question people have is, when do we know what students will attend the school and others? So that will happen late 26, early 27. And then again, the construction of the elementary school is expected to be complete in June and July of 2027. It's a 2-year project. This new elementary school is part of our Envision 2030 projects that we're working on across the district to upgrade many of our facilities. This is a tax rate neutral project, as our other projects are as well. This build allows us to do 3 things primarily: provide space in other buildings, programming such as high quality STEM instruction, therapy spaces, spaces for school resource officers, etc. Allow space for pre-K in all of our elementary buildings so younger siblings can attend school with their older brothers and sisters, and allow for growth on the west side that we're experiencing in capacity at our other elementary schools as well. A couple other notes from me. Haller & Yoon and CSO were tasked with designing a building here in BCSC that met the expectations of the community, both from a design standpoint and an economical standpoint. So we were very clear up front that the cost of this project need not exceed what other elementary schools are being built for across the state of Indiana. And they met those marks. We're very proud and very pleased that they've done so. This is not a project that is exorbitant in cost because of the design, and Eric and his team will speak to that here in a bit. This building will be incredibly safe and efficient. They'll be run on geothermal HVAC systems and welcoming space for teaching and learning, and I'm excited to share some of the details with you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Chad Phillips, Superintendent of BCSC.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here today. First, I want to say we are very grateful for the Cummins Foundation, for funding projects such as this one. This community, you all know this already, this community would not be what it is without their support. Also want to thank the architects, engineers, and skilled professionals who developed the design for what will be BCSC's second new school building in over 40 years. To Haller & Yoon, CSO, Taylor Brothers, and Pepper Construction, all of these, we could not be more pleased to be working alongside you on this project. I'm going to pause here and go off of my notes because I also want to thank both of my predecessors in my position are in this room this evening. Dr. Quick's visionary leadership to acquire the land here with also Dr. Silva at the time and Mr. Forster, I believe, is also here. And then, so thank you, Dr. Quick. I apologize, I don't have any great notes for you, or sorry, jokes for Dr. Quick, wherever he is. And then also Dr. Roberts, under whose leadership we developed the Vision 2030 projects to get us to the point that we are today. And I don't reference any songs for you, Dr. Roberts, so apologies for that. Just clapping for the no sound. So thank you for your leadership, all of you. I also want to, and more so than anyone else for me, I want to extend my sincere appreciation to Dr. Bozeman and his team, Greg Ferguson, Mr. Sprong, and the design team, Jennifer Rashady, who you'll hear from here soon, Kate Edgren, Suzanne Dean, and Cassidy Kelly. This group brought creativity, insight, and a deep commitment to our students to this project. They approached this work not only with a vision for what is possible, but also a strong sense of responsibility to our community's values and legacy. They exemplify why Columbus, Bartholomew County, and BCSE are so special. Dedicated individuals willing to give their time and talents to ensure that our schools reflect both our architectural heritage and the needs of today's learners. Their work reinforces our belief that we can be the best community of our size in the nation. Before I move on, if you were on the design team, the 4 design team members, Mr. Sprong, Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Bozeman, please stand so that we can all recognize you for your work. To our community and the Board of Trustees, both current and former members, thank you. Your support makes projects like this possible and ensures that every BCSE student has access to an excellent learning environment. Now for the design, this design reflects the high expectations we hold for excellence in our built environment. Now we turn our attention, or soon I should say, we turn our attention to the construction project with that same standard of excellence. And we look forward to seeing what students who walk through its doors in 2027 will achieve for decades to come. It is my pleasure to introduce Laura Miller, a Landmark Columbus board member and one of our critical partners in the Envision 2030 projects.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. As a member of the Columbus community, a proud BCSE alum, go Bulldogs, a mother to a future BCSE student, and a Landmarks Columbus Foundation board member, I'm very proud to be invited here to give a few remarks on such an exciting occasion. This is truly a joyous moment in the Columbus community. Investing in our children is one of the most important things that we can do as we look towards the future. Not only the act of building a new school, reflecting a growing and healthy community that has a real need for more space to serve our children, but by leaning into design in order to best serve these students' future needs. Design is often misunderstood as being about solely how something looks, but when applied correctly, with the right partners at the table, with the right leaders driving needs into vision and vision into reality, it is so much more. Design is the way that we answer hard questions like, how do I make sure my children are safe when they come to school? How will pick up and drop off impact the traffic of the surrounding community? What will my daughter remember most about her school day? What will my son's environment take away from his built environment in order to influence him as a person as he grows? Answering questions like these to the best of our collective abilities and strengths results in truly great design. I want to take a moment to thank Dr. Bozeman and Dr. Phillips and the entire supporting team for choosing to uphold the design legacy that is imbued in the core of BCSE and echoes across Columbus. Thank you for making this investment and guiding the vision of our new school into being. I want to thank the Cummins Foundation for continuing to support excellence in public design and providing the architecture fees for this project. These investments are incredibly important and create impact that cascades across our community. I also want to thank Tad Fruits and Glenda Walders at Winders, sorry Glenda, at Landmark Columbus Foundation for their documentation, archival, and research work in support of this latest addition to BCSC, and looking not only at where we are going, but where we have been. We know that mediocrity is expensive. When we choose to invest in mediocrity, we show our children where the bar is and what is permissible to accept. Every time a public building is built, that building is a statement to anyone who uses it, who passes by, showing them what the city thinks of itself, what standards it set for itself, and what it aims to be. I commend the entire guiding team, Haller and Yoon, and the countless supporters on this project. I think you have set the bar very high with our new school. It's a wonderful new chapter. In closing, I would like to share one of my favorite quotes from my grandfather, which excuse me. Everything in this community which you treasure, which makes you feel good about your hometown, was accomplished by people who love the city to do their very best. So I think everyone involved in this project has truly done their very best, and I want to thank them on behalf of Landmarks Columbus as well as myself. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to hand this over to the design team teacher, Jennifer Rashidi, and she'll continue on. Thank you very much.
Since May 2024, I have had the privilege of working alongside Suzanne Dean, Cassidy Kelly, and Kate Edgren as members of the design team for BCSC's new elementary, Maple Grove Elementary. Darren Sprong, our future principal of Maple Grove, has efficiently guided our team as we have participated in regular meetings, both in person and on Zoom, with representatives from CSO Architects, Haller and Yoon, and BCSC leadership. Through these sessions, our perspectives as educators were genuinely valued, and the ideas and changes we proposed were thoughtfully considered and meaningfully integrated into the project. At every stage of the design process, student learning and exploration remained at the forefront of our minds, guiding our decisions and ensuring that the final design supports an engaging, inclusive, and future-focused learning environment. It has been an honor to contribute to this project. We are proud of the collaborative work that has been done, and we look forward to seeing how Maple Grove Elementary will inspire generations of students to come.
The last time we were here together, you may recall the Cummins Foundation gave us 4 options from which to choose, and Eric Haller and Meejin Yoon from Haller and Yoon were the community's preferred choice. And one instance that you recall me mentioned before was Eric's perspective to view the project through the eyes of a child. So I think you'll hear more about that, and please give Eric Haller a round of applause as he shows us our new elementary school in Columbus, Indiana.
Thanks so much. It's great to be back here. When I was standing outside as you were coming in, I recognized so many familiar faces, and it's nice over a few years to get to know so many of you and to feel like we can come back to Columbus and feel at home. I was joking that when we go to the brewery, they call us regulars. So we have a loyalty program at the brewery from Haller and Yoon, so that's meaningful, I think. As Brett suggested, we are about to conclude the design phase of this project. I've seen many of you. A brief introduction of our practice. We're about 20 architects. We're based in Boston. David Ham's based in Louisville, so we have the Louisville branch. He drove up here today. But this is our studio, and incredibly dedicated, creative people who make the magic happen. We're also teachers, and many of our employees are our former students, and so Even though before this we'd never designed an elementary school, I feel like as a parent and as a teacher, we have a sense of how to build or how to design to encourage a kind of curiosity-inspired view of the world. And I want to show you a little bit of our process because we've been working on it for 12 months and haven't really shared too much about it. So this is our big chance to show you a little bit of what we've been doing. A few images of some of our projects. As I said, we're not school experts. We are, I think, broadly speaking, designers. And I think a designer is curious about the world. They're curious about the world as it is. They're curious about the world as it might be. And that idea that it might be different or it might be better, I think that's what makes a designer a designer. And so we like to say we're not specialized in any particular building type, but we do like to make beautiful things in the world. We like design that has an impact, that changes the way people think about things. And so there's a few examples on this slide of just different kinds of projects we've done, from a single family house to a memorial at the University of Virginia, to the MIT Museum, to a bridge in Shanghai. These are kinds of projects we enjoy, the ones that sort of really, I say, tickle our brains, make us think harder, really challenge us to sort of solve problems, but also to imagine the world differently. This was a photo taken probably by Tad 12 months ago, where I was remembering my elementary school, and I told a story about sitting in a classroom with a butterfly flying around, and everyone was captivated and distracted, and then it flew out, and then we were back in the classroom. But the idea that the school is not just about the gym and the cafeteria and the administration, it's really a scaffold for the child's imagination. And I think we tried to think about that as we developed the design and solved all the problems and coordinated all the structure. But this idea of imagination and how do we support that imagination so that the kids also imagine the world differently. That's what we want. We want them to dream and to think about how they could change the world for the better. So that was, I think, pervading, all of our conversations. This was a little sketch I did on the airplane of the classroom with 3 walls and a garden. Over these 12 months, we've worked with the teacher team, we've worked with the BCSC team, worked with our construction manager friends and our consultants. A lot of hands touched this school design, from engineering, civil, traffic, landscape, MEP, IT, security. All these people come together, and they say architects, we like to bring all this expertise together because there's no single discipline that can solve all these problems. We need expertise and different opinions from all other disciplines to come up with something, hopefully, that has a kind of coherence, that has a kind of a clear vision. And I'd like to share a little bit of that process with you. So this is us in the conference room just behind those doors with models, sketching things out, trying to figure out how to make this school the best school we can imagine. We've got the models in the back. After this, we'll invite you to come and take a closer look. But we tried lots and lots of different things. We don't come with one idea and say, do you like it? We usually come with 5 or 6 ideas, maybe 10 or 12 ideas before we got to the 5 or 6. And we try things, and we try things, and then collectively, we find the best version of the thing. So these are all some of the models that we built. And so you can see there was no preconception. We didn't come in and say it must be a rectangle or it must be a star. We tried lots of things, and together we evaluated those things, and we think we've got the right scheme. We think we picked the right design. But backing up a little bit, last time we were here, we were kind of marveling at Columbus. We've been here many times. Every time we come through this bridge, it's still kind of remarkable. We have good feelings when we come to Columbus, thinking about a community that really loves design, that has invested in design over the years. I think design has reinvested in this community over time. Thinking about the everyday spaces in Columbus and the kind of beauty of small things, of details, of the color of paint, of the domestic spaces, the kind of intimate spaces, the integration of architecture and landscape. All of this is here, and it's so rich and it's so inspiring. How could we imagine adding to something like that? It's daunting, as you can imagine. This is a beautiful slide of both the color scheme for the street and the sort of needlework in the pillow. So from the pillow to Main Street, from the city to the furniture scale, so much density of design and intent. And the schools, I think, represent that legacy really beautifully. There have been so many different schools built over time, in a way exemplifying different experimental ideas about what education could be, what a classroom might be. And so we went to visit one of the schools with Brett today, and we were marveling at the way even the idea of what a school is has changed over time. And that Columbus has invested in different models, sort of experimenting, testing, innovating. These are things that we hear a lot in popular culture. You know, how do we bring innovation to business, innovation to teaching? I think, you know, Columbus has invested in these different ideas over time, and I think it has yielded different results. Jennifer mentioned this idea of the school name, Maple Grove. What a great name. I think it connects to the site, to this place, but also to the legacy of Columbus with this original school, the Maple Grove School. I haven't looked at it carefully, but now I'm going to take a closer look and see what other resonances we might find. But sort of responding to that history and imagining the future, I think that's going to make a really nice sort of tie-in. As we started designing, we were looking at the legacy of these schools, and we sort of put them on a screen, and we said, you know, what might that one look like? How do we fill in that empty square? And that's a daunting thing, because on this slide are such incredible architects, such incredible names, such incredible buildings. How might we sort of fill in this chart? And anything that we do needs to live up to that sort of context. So how do we start? I think we started from the outside in and from the inside out. Today I wanted to go from the inside out, looking at the classroom itself. I think we also started with principles. What are the attributes that we want for a school? And so we listed some things. We ran them by the teacher group, and we said, does this feel right? Does it need to be unique? Yes. Is it about community and collaboration? Yes. Does it feel welcoming for everybody? Yes. Connected to the outdoors, we have such a beautiful site here. Creative and curious, economical, neutral and flexible, safe, and a space where learning happens, but that the building is also teaching. This idea that the building is an active participant in what I call the alchemy of learning. So these 9 attributes we presented, we rearranged them a little bit in terms of order, but we kept coming back to these things. And as we were doing our design and we were developing the design, even when we were doing value engineering, we were asking, does it still reflect the spirit of welcoming? Does it still prioritize safety? Does it still prioritize the connection to the outdoors? And I think these principles helped us, I think, make decisions when we had to make hard decisions. Maybe you've been out in the back, maybe you've walked the site. It's a beautiful site, it slopes gently to the south, and that line of trees that are sort of growing around that sort of creek in the woods. What an incredible site for a new school. When we started, we said maybe the thing to do is just to frame views out so that every classroom has this wonderful view of that context. And these are early collages that we did where we just took the site and said, maybe it's about framing moments within that landscape so that the children are always looking back out to the natural context in which they're in. A little bit of that idea of the butterfly sort of flying through, you know, could that spark their imagination as well? And so we also asked, like, what is a window? Is a window for big people? Is it for little people? Are there windows for individuals? Are there shared windows? The window is how we sort of frame a view of the world, and could we have this idea of windows for all? That no matter if you're a little person or a big person, you get that window. Some of our collages showed like views back out, and that's in a way, one of the principles of the classroom is that it's sort of on an outside corner. So we're not just looking at one plane, we're actually looking at a kind of wraparound sort of condition. That the views out are paired with learning materials in the classroom. And these classrooms were laid out and tested with the teachers, with our collaborating architects, to make sure that we meet their needs, their teaching needs, that has not just a frontal sort of blackboard, but has different moments within it. And every classroom has learning happening in many different places, not just at the blackboard. We talked a little bit about belonging as a child. Where do you belong? Do you belong to the classroom? Do you belong to the neighborhood, the kind of cluster of classrooms? We talked about neighborhoods of classrooms and breaking down the scale of an institution so that it feels not too overwhelming, not too intimidating to children. And then ultimately this idea of the larger community. And so this idea of nested belonging, that you feel at home, you're sort of in a larger bubble, in a way that thinking helped us think about the design of the school. And so working with CSO, we sort of looked at the school designs that they've done successfully, pairing classrooms, sharing resources, and then those two classrooms on the left sort of co-producing the activity commons. And so two classrooms share this little room, and then they contribute to that, and then it becomes part of a larger cluster. This model of clustering and arranging around activity spaces, that the circulation is also a space that you learn not just in the classroom but between classes. So these are some of our studies showing these clusters, the activity commons being in a way defined by the different classrooms, and the classrooms relying on each other. There's a kind of codependency between classrooms because of their shared resources. So these are 4 different versions of the classroom layouts and clustering. In this one, the pedal, which is the one we ended up using, they also have a kind of wedge of outdoor space that sort of pushes into the activity commons. This idea that nature is sort of pushing in between these pedals, between the fingers of the classroom wings. Those pedals were studied in different arrangements. So we see the pedal scheme here, the puzzle, which was really pushing the classrooms towards the view. In this case, the view was over here with the wooded landscape. The compass, we also arranged these in a kind of a pinwheel, and then we had this circular canopy that would sort of bind them all together. And then the pinwheel, the more traditional pinwheel, which sort of created a kind of large outdoor courtyard in the middle. So we tested all of these. We measured them, tried to figure out the travel distances, the efficiencies, but also how successfully do they meet our criteria of uniqueness, of welcomingness, of this idea of belonging, and breaking down the scale of something that might feel too institutional. We like to build models, so we would build physical models, we'd bring our models to the meeting. We'll show some of those models to you, but we started with 7 different schemes. You'll recognize some familiar things like the crossing here and the pedals, the village, or the one roof, or the zipper. All of these weren't wasted, I would say. All these ideas, they sort of find their way back into the design. So even though some of them were voted off the island early, some of those ideas came back in at the end. Just some process photos. It's so fun to bring a model, put it on the table, and everyone stands up and wants to look at it, wants to imagine themselves inside of it. There's nothing like a physical thing to test a design. It's hard to look at design on a screen. It's hard to look at design just through a computer model. So physical models were a great way for us to imagine ourselves in those spaces and to see it from every point of view, from inside as well as from outside. So this is a little bit of our process. Again, in the room over there, working through ideas, testing them. And then what happens, interestingly, is one idea merges with another, pedals merge with crossing, and we got to the revised pedal, and you see the 4 schemes that were sort of converging on a direction that we all could agree on. So it does have the kind of clustered classrooms, the shared resources, the cubby spaces and the bathrooms that are shared, and there's a connection between them, and then the activity commons that sort of co-defined between the classrooms. The activity commons form this kind of dog bone shape, and that faces out in the little wedge of landscape that's pushing in between the pedals. Other classrooms like the specials are here, sort of part of this wing. And then it has a single access point here, but also access to the outdoors. So this sort of clustering of classrooms, forming grades, and then forming mini communities that are then nested within the larger school footprint. The activity commons might look a little bit like this, with natural light coming through from the left. We've got the ceiling texture that's sort of tying those two activity commons together, and then glass, storefronts inside that open out and welcome all that daylight from the classrooms itself. Very importantly, as I mentioned, the views out to nature, but also the views into each other, so that students and kids see each other and they start to get to know other kids in the adjacent classroom. Just the way you might think about a town where you know your neighbor. There's a porch, you say hi to your neighbor on the porch. The porch is somewhere between inside and outside, between public and private. And so we really talk about the porches, the kind of spaces between classrooms and those shared sense of ownership of those spaces. So really using the sort of analog of a kind of neighborhood or a kind of townscape. This is the activity commons shared by the four classrooms. We did work carefully with the teachers to think through questions of pedagogy, what activities would happen, but also questions of belonging, but also questions of safety. Do I feel safe here? Do I know where to go if I need to go somewhere safe, somewhere secure? So these were always part of our considerations. The access to the outdoors, a quick means of escape, and then where do you go from one classroom to the other, and could you then get out the other side? I think these are considerations we have to consider. I think running through every scenario, I think we did arrive at classrooms that I think meet the highest level of consideration for questions of not just belonging, but also feeling safe and secure. Having views to where you're going, understanding where you go, where to go for this activity, where to go for that activity. So that I think was quite a lesson for us in terms of thinking through the best possible school designs. This model of the kind of community pedal we'll have outside afterwards, and we welcome you to take a close look at that. We did build lots of little furniture pieces and move them around, and I think that also helps us understand how these classes will be used and how they're configured. So starting with the classroom, starting with the neighborhood, the pedals, we sort of placed them on the site so that they get these great views back out to the woods. We really wanted the kids to feel like they were among the trees, that they're in the landscape. They're at school, but they're still sort of looking back at the tree line. So the two pedals that are facing the trees are facing south and west. To that we added the administration wing, which is the pink wing, and then the gymnasium and cafeteria, which is the orange wing. And so now we have the 7 petals of this sort of branched sort of structure. The entries from the north, and obviously from an access point of view, we enter from the parking lot or the bus lot. We enter between the 2 petals in the gaps between the fingers. The first space you might come into might be the reception, where you don't enter directly, you enter through the reception, and just something a little detailed like the reception desk. Might be like this. There's a height for the standing height. There's a height for the sitting height. Someone in a wheelchair would feel welcome here. But also, just thinking about what does a child see when they walk into a new school to visit their sibling? Where is their attention? Is it up on the wall at the artwork? Are they sort of fidgeting with something in their pocket? Are they looking down at the bottom of the reception desk? And can we imagine, something inscribed underneath the reception desk? Some message that's just for them, something special that they'll discover. And I think this idea of embedding into every design little moments of discovery that registers the different kind of attention or perception of grown-ups and of little people. How do we sort of introduce those things for not just the grown-ups, but also for the little ones? So trying to think through where is their attention, where might we sort of leave some clues, some hints at design that are just for them, so that they also feel seen and heard. And And one note from the reception desk, in addition to inspiring hopefully wonder for the child that comes in and is looking, maybe they find a little door underneath the desk and wonder who's that door for. But also the receptionist does have clear sight lines back out to the parking lot. They can see who's coming. They know what those access points are. And so from the wonder to the kind of necessary security concerns, I think we have the whole span of kind of imaginative solutions for these questions. The plan is organized around this triangular space. It's called the Discovery Center. We call it the town square, even though it's not the square, it's a town triangle. The triangle of the town is where people come together, where all these kids pour out and then they recognize themselves as a community. I think that's quite important. This is a model we made, and it'll be outside to look at. But you see that now you see the petal with the kind of two wings and then the other petal, and together they define this triangle. And that triangle, the town triangle, is where a lot of the resources for learning, the Discovery Center resources are. It's a place where you see each other, you see your teacher, you see your sibling, and you get to understand yourself as part of this larger community. On the left is the gymnasium and cafeteria, and fronting all the town triangle are all the specials, all the music classrooms, the art classrooms, the STEM classrooms. So thinking of it as these nested clusters of communities of different scales and different sizes, it's all coming together. As I mentioned, music, art, STEM, and makerspaces are fronting the town triangle. The way significant civic buildings face the town square, the way they sort of activate it, the way they sort of have a presence there. I think this model of the city and the building, I think, works pretty well. So we were just in this reception area looking out at the parking lot, and then this is the town triangle. As you come around the corner, you would discover that moment. So I've just stepped in. This is my first experience in the school. My sibling goes to school, but I'm going to come and see where they study. And wow, there's a double height space. There's daylight coming in from above. There might be some beautiful piece of sculpture animating the space. I get sightlines right out to the landscape beyond, right here and right there. There's a bridge suspended over. There's all these great, exciting things in the middle. There's stairs going up. I see where I'm going. I might catch a glimpse of a teacher on the bridge, and I might wave to them. So this is a place where everyone comes through, everyone gathers. In a way, it's the kind of central distribution space before we all go into our specific classrooms. During transitions between classes, we're passing through here, and we're sort of getting to know, in a way, the neighborhood of the school. As I mentioned, the sight lines out are really important. So when I came through the door, I can see right out there, I can see right out there. On the upper level too, I can see right out there and right out there. And so you never feel far from the landscape beyond. These are the plans. I think they're printed on the boards. You're welcome to take a careful look, and we'll be standing next to them and be able to explain what's what if you're curious. It's a two-story building, so the ground floor is like this. The upper level is really about those classrooms and their access through this grand stair, and then this little catwalk bridge that takes you across. And the bridge lines up with the view, so you see right out to the landscape. We do have means of compartmentalizing the building. It's necessary to introduce a single point of entry, so the neighborhoods can be closed off. They can be locked on both the upper and the lower level. Extremely thoughtful application of security and safety to make sure that these neighborhoods function the way they need to function today. Then lastly, going outside the building, now we've seen all the parts. How do the parts add up to the whole? As I mentioned, we thought about the context, both natural but also the solar orientation. The building is organized like a compass. It's true north-south, true east-west. The wings are truly southwest, southeast. And so you could understand the building as a hand, as a branch, as a flower, but also as a compass. Maybe it's also teachable. You say, oh, see the sun, moving across the sky. All of a sudden we have a different shadow. Could we think about the building also as a sundial? But in terms of its access, really the access is from the north, from the parking lot of the north. we tried to keep all the asphalt on the north side and keep the south completely green, so that from the classrooms, you're not looking at a parking lot, you're looking right back out at landscape, at trees, at grass, at hopefully butterflies. So this is our site plan, which we developed with CSO, with our traffic engineers, with our landscape architects. But you'll see this sort of north-south orientation. You see the kind of the petals sort of reaching out like a compass, like a sundial. And then the asphalt is really designed to make it an efficient place to drop off. We're astounded by the amount of drop-off requirements that there are, but I assure you it's all in there. And then the bus lane separately, dropping off here, and then pulling out. So it's quite a tricky logistical challenge, but we think we kept it all on the north side of the building. So from the children's perspective, looking out from the classrooms, they look out at the landscape, at the trees, at this retention pond, and then at the wooded landscape and a network of trails that are moving through the woods. So hopefully during the course of their day, they're sort of focused on those questions. We thought about it almost like a clock, and so the approach is from the east, with the drop-off, or if you're walking or riding your bike, you come along this path, and you're coming up on a path that's leading you right up into the entry point. So this is a perspective on that path, sort of coming from due east, right at the building, and we see the sort of fingers of the building reaching out to us with these arms that are kind of embracing us. The south pedal, we imagined almost like an outdoor classroom. This is landscaped, it's graded. I can imagine a teacher going outside and saying, we're going to have class outside, we're going to sit on the lawn on this nice slope, and we're going to talk about what we see and what can we learn from our natural environment. So the south outdoor room is facing between those two classroom wings, and that's a view of that approach. West and southwest. Still looking at the afternoon terrace, the amphitheater, the discovery trails. If you went down these discovery trails, you'd find the creek. And then that's a view from the southwest, looking back at the building. And then the northwest towards the bus parking and the playground and the play fields. This is the approach for many that are coming from the bus, so they would come through this entry here, whereas if they got dropped off in a car, you'd come through this entry here. And a view from the playground looking back at the building, again, the kind of welcoming arms of the building. And the last pedal is really the loading and services, and that's where the cafeteria is, that's where the loading and some of the equipment is located. So this one is heavily screened with landscape. And the very last pedal on the northeast is the parking and drop-off here. And that's what that might look like. There's still a little work to do on the landscape to make sure that there's places to sit as you're waiting to be picked up and so on. But you'll notice that the design of the exterior includes these tall, almost fluted panels. This is the entry point with this sort of glass between the opaque panels. As we were thinking about the expression of the building, we were trying to imagine like what feels at home here, and we sort of struck on this idea that maybe it should feel like geological, like maybe it feels like what's underneath our feet, all that sort of stone and rock, maybe it has a kind of geological formation. And so the architecture tries to mimic some of those patterns that we see in the way stone is cut, as a kind of solidity that's contrasted with the glass that fills in between. I remember, just imagining a child walking by and sort of looking and seeing all the detail in the stone, and sort of wondering where does it come from, and knowing that it's really just from below our feet. So this is a close-up that shows some of the texturing. It has a kind of gentle curvature, almost like a sail that's sort of billowing in the wind. It has a fluting that maybe recalls a kind of Greek classical architecture. But I think it's also something that you've never seen before. So it gestures to things, but it's not trying to be anything. It's trying to be maybe open-ended. I remember going to the State House in Wisconsin, and someone pointed to a starfish that was in a piece of limestone on one of the steps. And my daughter was there, and she was so amazed by the starfish in the limestone, in the steps, in the State House. And I said, that's a moment I would love to incorporate into a school. This idea of discovery, that you might find something natural within what you thought of as man-made. So one of the things we talked about with our construction team is, could we introduce into these piers clues and hints that might be not just at grown-up eye level, but down here in this sort of lower zone. So we do want to incorporate little not gems, but like shells and fossils and things that you wouldn't maybe notice the first time. Maybe you don't notice it the second time, but over time you start to notice them. Or maybe your child points it out to you because they noticed it and you didn't notice it. So incorporating these sort of hidden treasures into the architecture to sort of inspire that sense of discovery and wonder. So maybe like wrapping up and looking at the overall context of Columbus, we talked a lot about the legacy and looking backwards, looking forwards at the new school, looking forwards at the air traffic control tower that you're going to build soon, the Ivy Tech building. This legacy seems very much alive. That the sort of the need for architecture to continue to do good in this town, I think, is quite active still. And you know, we could imagine from Maple Grove to Maple Grove this sort of beautiful legacy sort of coming full circle to a new school that is optimistic, that's looking back at nature, but also imagining a kind of future that's man-made, but has these elements that ask us to imagine, like, where did that stone come from? And what stories does it tell? Could I ask the stone to tell me a story of its origins that goes back a million years? And wouldn't that be important to incorporate that into the architecture? So here we are with the two Maple Groves. The last thing I want to share is a little bit of a day in the life of. Sometimes we show a series of views in a building just to sort of imagine how it goes. And so we have a protagonist, his name is Manny. He's gonna take us to his school, give us a tour. So Manny comes walking. He comes along the eastern path, and he comes up this path, and he sees some of his friends on his way to school. When he gets to the front door, he shows us where some of his friends get dropped off on the bus. They go through the front door. There's a place to hang out here as you're waiting for some other friends that were late. There's a restroom here, and you see where you're going. The stair is just peeking around the corner. That's in the Discovery Center. You see the daylight streaming in. As soon as I come around that corner, that's when I get this sort of big double height space with the daylight and the views through. So Manny's very proud of that, and he shows his neighborhood's the green one. So let's go up to the green one. Up on the catwalk, on the bridge, now we're at the green one. We call this a porch. The kind of neighborhood is sort of color-coded with this sort of wraparound color, so you step through that. That also gives the sense of identity for the neighborhood, but it also allows the teachers to say, okay, as we walk through this, we want you to use your indoor voice, maybe take it down a notch. We've just been out in the recess, being loud, now we're going to start to talk with our indoor voices, step across the threshold. Now we're transitioning into a different mode of thinking, a different way of behaving. Now I'm in the activity commons. I'm going to show you what I've been working on with my friends. Then I'm in the classroom. And, Jenny's the teacher today. Talk about geography. So this is Manny's sort of itinerary through the school. Some of the moments he remembers, the ones he wants to share with you. STEM class, going downstairs to a special activity in STEM class. Going to PE and recess. Really important to have those right adjacent off the playground. In the gymnasium, he's excited to tell us about the recital. We throw open these large doors. We connect the gym and the cafeteria. There's daylight coming in from above. These are spaces where the whole school is gathered in one place. Very exciting. Back out to the playground with the basketball courts. And the last slide is Manny saying, I'm curious what my friends are going to do in the backyard. So he's taking us in and around and through and then back outside. And maybe that's my last slide. I was thinking about the comments that were made as we were introducing this event. And I'll say that when we first started coming here, Columbus was this kind of distant place that we heard a lot about. I think we've gotten to know it a little bit better. It does feel a little bit like coming home and seeing friends. So we're so thrilled to be part of this community, contributing in a way. It's daunting to imagine a new school within this legacy. But I was telling Brett that there's nothing more optimistic than building a new school. You know, no building type, whether it's an office building, nothing compares to building an elementary school because it's really future looking. And I think so much of Columbus's legacy is like looking at buildings that have been done in the past, but this is really oriented towards the future and is full of optimism and wonder and joy. And I think that's what I'd like to sort of leave us thinking about, is what these kids are going to experience, what they're going to do when they grow up and contribute to this community. So we're so grateful to be part of this, and we would happily entertain any questions you have or any comments, either in this format or afterwards outside in the lobby. So thank you very much.